A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far too spatially consistent to be logical, the Jedi were hunted. Order 66 hit hard. Clone troopers turned. Lightsabers dropped. Everyone died. And the survivors? They ran. Vanished into the Outer Rim. Changed their names. Burned their robes. But instead of going full space Moses and wandering the desert of the Outer Rim for 40 years, one Jedi said the forbidden words. What if we just stayed? Not on a moon, not in hiding, not in exile, but on Coruscant. Now I know that sounds insane, but sit with it, just for 5 seconds, because, and here's the part no one ever wants to say out loud, Coruscant is a fucking planet, not a city, not a district, a full-sized Earth-class planet, covered in buildings, stacked in layers, buried in smog and denial, 5,127 levels, over 1 trillion sentients, crime, pollution, urban collapse. And the Jedi? They spent 1,000 years living on the top floor, sipping overpriced space tea, pretending the rest of the planet didn't exist, like there weren't thousands of levels of dark, lawless, perfectly usable hiding space beneath their own damn temple. Well, guess what? The Empire doesn't know what's down there either. Because no one does. Because no one wants to. Because it's gross. Because it's dangerous. Because it's beneath them, literally and politically. Which makes it the single most obvious place to start a Jedi insurgency. But no, they chose caves. Because of destiny. The idiots. So the Jedi survive Order 66. Not all of them, but enough, maybe 100, give or take. Plus support crews. Temple dropouts. Force sensitives who never made it past lightsaber orientation, and instead of scattering to the edges of space like cosmic orphans, they go low, not metaphorically, physically. Low into the bowels of Coruscant, past the Senate levels, past the financial district, past the ventilation shafts no one services anymore. Down into the layers the Republic never touched, because the Republic was a skybox government, and the Empire, it's federal, and Coruscant below level 2000, that's Detroit with no funding, no maps, and no sunlight. So the Jedi descend, elevators, maintenance tubes, cargo shafts welded shut since the High Republic, and they keep going. Level 5,127. They call it the floor. Because there's no more down after that. Because even light gave up trying to reach it. Because law doesn't reach it. The Force? It hums. It stews. It marinates in the grime. And down there, the Jedi find people. Forgotten people. Entire cultures. Collapsed languages. Whole ecosystems built around broken water mains and lichen that glows when you're lying. People who don't even know the Clone Wars happened. People who think sunlight is a myth. People who believe the galaxy ends at level 5,000 and everything above that is space fantasy made up by heatstroke prophets. And the Jedi step into the shadow world and say something no one expects. Hey, want to fight the Empire? And the response? I don't know what that is. Do you have food? And yeah, they do. They've got hydroponics, they've got stolen ration cubes, they've got mind tricks to calm a riot or scam a vendor, they've got hope, but mostly, they've got food. And in a place where food is rarer than truth, that's enough. Because now, they have followers. They have cover. They have space. And they have an entire planet to wage insurgency from the bottom up, right under Palpatine's feet. Let's talk about scale, because I don't think you fully understand what Coruscant is. It has 1 trillion people on it. That's not a joke. That's not me exaggerating for effect. That's canon. 1 trillion sentient beings. That's a 1 with 12 zeros. That's 125,000 times the population of New York City. And we're told, casually, like it's just flavor text, that there are 5,127 vertical levels of city stacked on top of each other. Do you understand how insane that is? That's not big. That's not futuristic. That's geometrically irresponsible. That's the entire surface area of Earth, multiplied by 5,000, layered, compacted, jammed with people who haven't seen a sunrise since the Old Republic. And somehow, the Empire controls this? The Empire, which is barely a year old, still putting together name tags, still writing the handbook, and here's the best part. The Empire has maybe 6 million troops for the entire galaxy. The entire galaxy. Let's do the math. That's one trooper for every 30,000 citizens for one planet. In its first year, the Galactic Empire controlled approximately 1.5 million member worlds, including over 69 million systems with sentient life under its broader influence. And those troops? Most of them are still clone leftovers, still traumatized, still being retrained on how to use new armor. They are not sweeping 5,127 levels of sewer insurgents. They are not digging through mile-thick strata of pissed-off scavengers and hydroponic force cults. They can't even keep the top 200 levels clean. And this raises a question. A real one. How does the Empire make sense? How did they take Coruscant? How did they hold it? How did the Separatists lose? They had droid armies, factory planets, unlimited production, and the Republic just wins? Because one wrinkly man with an evil voice says, "Execute Order 66," and everyone forgets math? None of this makes sense. None of it. The Empire didn't win by power. They won by narrative. They won because the story needed them to, which is why this Jedi insurgency should have worked. Because if reality had physics, Palpatine would have been buried in a 300-level deep force riot before he even signed the Empire into existence. But no, we're all pretending 1 million guys with helmets and bad aim can police the single most overcrowded urban planet in history. Sure. Okay, that's fine. That's totally fine. The Jedi didn't vanish, they didn't flee, they just went quiet. No temples, no robes, no sermons about destiny, just small groups, helping people, fixing what's broken, feeding the hungry, just being useful. Jedi cells start popping up across the lower levels like mold with ethics. They call them kitchens, clinics, unions. They never say order, they never say council, but they all carry the same symbol, a saber, not as a weapon, as a promise. And when people ask what it is, OMG, is that light? It burns, but in a good way. Combat becomes rare. The saber is a symbol now. The Force? A tool. A flashlight in a collapsed stairwell. A whisper that calms a riot. A shove that saves a life. The Jedi don't need to fight stormtroopers. They just fix the power grid so a whole sector doesn't freeze to death in the dark. They hand out bread, and med packs, and clean water, and people join. Because it turns out starting an army of the Forgotten is really easy, if you just give a shit. The Empire doesn't notice, not because it's subtle, because they don't believe it's possible. Coruscant? In their minds, it's a city, a skyscraper, a parking lot for senators and war criminals. The idea that Jedi could be hiding beneath it is laughable. No one would stay on Coruscant. That would be madness. That would be suicidal. That would be... Wait, are you saying they went down? Yes, Greg. Yes, they did. Because the Empire keeps forgetting. Coruscant is a fucking planet, and so they keep sending scouts to Tatooine, and Dantooine, and swamp moons that have more frogs than citizens. Meanwhile, 500 billion people live above an active Jedi insurgency and don't even know it. Palpatine is told there's unrest. Something's happening below level 3000, they say. He waves it off. Beneath him. Literally. He doesn't even fake interest. He assumes it's a plumbing issue or a tunnel cult. Because to Palpatine, power only counts if it's broadcast from a balcony. Vader senses something. A disturbance in the Force. Old. Persistent. Growing. Like a tide. But far beneath him. And because he's Vader, because he has no one left to tell his jokes to, he chuckles internally and thinks, below me, He tells no one. He does nothing. Because the dark side doesn't care about things that live in the dark. But soon, they'll care. 1 year into the Empire, someone finally notices. A few murmurs reach Imperial command. Nothing formal, just patterns. Missing patrols. Power disruptions. Whole sub-levels refusing shipments they never asked for. But someone sends a team. Scout troopers, clones, intel officers with clipboards and confused expressions. They take the elevator down. They never come back. So they try again. Heavier force. Gunships. Detachment commanders. Gone. No explosions. No calls for help. Just silence. Because the Jedi don't fight for control. They fight for conditions. Collapse the supports. Bomb the elevator shafts. Seal the doors behind them. Suddenly the Empire's reach ends at level 2000. Below that, not their jurisdiction. Not anymore. And the people? They run. Not away from the Jedi, toward them. Because the Empire brings curfews, credits, and fire. The Jedi bring water, bread, and the comforting certainty that if something explodes, it wasn't a school. Entire blocks shift allegiance without a speech. What was once a slum becomes a force-fed ecosystem. Not utopia, not perfect, but alive. Self-sustaining. Running on cooperation, scavenged tech, and Jedi who finally got off their philosophy asses and started doing something useful. The Empire tries propaganda. Rebels infecting the undercity. Force cults stealing your freedoms. Beware of Jedi terrorists. But no one hears it. Because no one down there has holonet access. Most don't even have electricity. And if they do, it came from a Jedi plugging a lightsaber battery into a ruined junction box. The only message the people get is, we're alive, and the Empire isn't helping. So the Jedi? They stop hiding. They're not a rebellion. They're not a temple. They're something worse. They're competent. And the floor? It's not just forgotten anymore. It's liberated. Coruscant splits. There's no declaration. No vote. No dramatic I am the Senate moment. Just a quiet line drawn across reality. Top 1,000 levels? Imperial controlled. Stormtrooper presence. Taxation. Schedules. Threats. Everything below that? Contested. Liberated. Or actively trying to collapse on purpose. Because the Jedi don't form a government. They don't name a capital. They don't write a constitution. They just start turning off things the Empire depends on. Power lines. Sewer relays. Support columns. Entire sectors held together by faith. And rebar suddenly go, oops. They don't need to topple the Senate. They could literally just drop it. Like, the actual building. Through the floor. That's how structural their leverage is. And down below, kids are born who have never seen a stormtrooper. Never bowed to an inquisitor. Don't even understand the idea of imperial fear. Because if the Empire doesn't come down here, and you've got food, air, and a lightsaber-powered irrigation system, why the hell would you care about Darth paperwork upstairs? The Jedi don't train these kids with speeches. They train them with actions. Fix this pipe. Heal that person. Deflect this blaster bolt. They're not soldiers. They're not monks. They're floorborn. And they don't ask what the Empire is doing. They ask, why did the Jedi ever leave? Eventually, Vader comes down. Not for diplomacy, not for drama. For war. It's not a duel. It's not epic. It's slow, brutal, ugly. Elevator by elevator, level by level. He's fighting sewer magicians with brainwashed kids and junkyard tech, powered by belief and wet plywood. And he realizes, mid-fight, mid-breath, mid-fury, this will take decades, because it's a fucking planet. Not a battlefield, not a village, not a Death Star hallway, a planet. We were in Afghanistan for decades, and that is not planet-sized. Do you hear me, Yoda? I came up with this joke at 6 a.m. as a dumb, tired, what if the Jedi just stayed on Coruscant? Joke. And now I'm fighting for my life and liberty in a full-blown planetary ethical nightmare that makes more sense than the actual canon. Get your shit together, Yoda. Stop doing meth. Think for once. The top layers of Coruscant. They don't feel like a capital anymore. They feel like a bunker. A throne room on stilts. Paranoid. Brutal. Constantly humming with fear. Not fear of the Jedi. Fear of gravity. Because the Empire isn't worried about rebellion. They're worried about collapse. Literal, architectural collapse. One blown column. One sabotaged shaft. One oops in the right support strut. And the entire central government becomes a falling object. Meanwhile, the floor, it thrives. No banners. No anthems. No Jedi Council. Just shelters. Clinics. Gardens powered by garbage. Philosophy reduced to one rule: help who you can. Then train them to help someone else. The Jedi don't return. They don't rise. They embed. They become part of the city's bones. No more temples, just neighborhoods. No more grand speeches, just networks. They never left. They just changed levels. Who wins? Who knows? Maybe the Empire crushes the floor. Maybe the floor outlasts the Empire. Maybe Coruscant eats them both in a slow, stupid urban implosion. But we do know one thing. Logic won't win. Logistics won't win. Scale sure as hell won't win, because nothing in Star Wars has ever made sense. And the only reason this stupid Jedi sewer uprising works is because I made it up at 6 a.m. while sleep deprived. Because I thought it'd be funny. And it turns out, it is. It's very funny. Or not. Like and subscribe. Because the Jedi didn't need a prophecy, or a chosen one, or some desert messiah. They just needed to go downstairs and care. This has been Canon Chaos, where scale goes to die, and the Force runs on spite.